Sometimes I think Pokemon Company really just kind of wants to twist the knife for people who don't have online and or don't have friends. I mean, I fall into that latter category. Sure, I stream, I make Pokemon content. I don't really have a lot of friends outside of YouTube, like subscribers and stuff, that play Pokemon on a regular basis. So often I'm left having to do Tera raids solo or doing stuff like this. This is not going well for us. Absolutely embarrassing myself on stream. I think I have lost more raids on stream than I have actually won on stream. And sometimes that's even with your guys' help. So it's not all on me. It's been over a year. It's time to rank little Joey, Susie, and Billy on how well they are actually doing as Pokemon trainers. What are the best Pokemon they can bring for the Tera raid events? Anything. 5, 6, 7 stars. Which of them are the best ones that you want to have, and which are the ones that you should honestly just restart the raid? That's what we're going to figure out today. And we're going to do that with the power of a tier list. Everyone's favorite thing. Mind you, these are my opinions. I am no Pokemon expert, other than I play the game a lot, and I'm pretty bad at doing Tera raids. So, I mean, take this with a grain of salt. But let me know how you think my ratings stand, and whether or not you agree with me or not, and what you would change down in the comments. And while you're down there, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. We're getting closer and closer to 600 subscribers, and even closer to our goal of having members before February for a mini subathon. Let's get into ranking every single Tera raid NPC Pokemon for 5, 6, and 7-star raids in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Oh, all right. So we have S tier, A tier, B, C, debatable, and your trash kid. I think it's a pretty fair spread. So let's see what we got. Starting out with Arcanine. Arcanine is arguably one of the first broken Pokemon, and I'm gonna say he's a solid S tier. We're starting off really strong. With Intimidate and Leer, Arcanine is not only taking out defense, with Intimidate on turn 1 and Leer as an option for him to use throughout the battle, not only is Arcanine lowering the Pokemon's attack stat, it can also consistently lower its defense so that you can hit it harder. That's super useful, and that honestly buys it an S tier placement. Next up, we have Tauros, which is kind of hit or miss. Definitely not an S tier. I'm going to say he's more of an A tier. Unlike Arcanine, he doesn't have access to Leer, but he does have Intimidate, which is just a super helpful ability, because every time the NPC gets knocked out, and you know they're going to get knocked out, they get another Intimidate proc. So it's pretty useful, and it places Tauros at the top end of A tier. Next, Umbreon. I love Umbreon, one of the coolest looking evolutions, but sadly not the most useful in my opinion when it comes to Tera raids and the Pokemon that you want to see your NPCs bringing. Yeah, it has access to Thunder Wave. Wow. I can talk. Yeah, it has access to Thunder Wave for paralysis, and it has access to Stab, Bite. But unless you're going up against a ghost Pokemon, Umbreon isn't really a Pokemon that you want to be bringing to the fight. So for that reason, I'm gonna, and you guys might hate me for this, I'm gonna put Umbreon in debatable. I think that there are niche circumstances when Umbreon would be preferred over other Pokemon, but 70% of the time, Umbreon probably isn't what you're going to want to see. You're going to see Arcanines and Tauros and some of the other Pokemon that we haven't gotten to yet, because they have much more useful abilities or moves to help you out throughout the fight. We have Heracross, and honestly, you guys might hate me for this, but in terms of soloing in a Tera raid, Heracross doesn't have a lot. He's bringing the Swarm ability, Mega Horn, Brick Break, and Bulk Up. Now, mind you, if he had Bulk Up and Close Combat and the AI were smart enough to actually set up so that you could be hitting really hard stab Close Combat, maybe Heracross would be a little more useful on the ones that it's super effective against. But without any utility with like Intimidate or moves that will drop the defense or attack of the Pokemon we're facing, Heracross is gonna be honestly a C tier. Now, you know, our first C tier, but that is not to say that Debatable is worse than C tier. Debatable is a tier in and of itself. So I'm not saying that Heracross is better or worse than Umbreon, just that Umbreon has more niche uses than Heracross. Next, we have Gardevoir, who comes with Synchronize, Moonblast, and Life Dew. It's pretty useful moves. Synchronize is kind of nice because if the Pokemon we're fighting manages to get a status off on Gardevoir, Synchronize will apply it back to the one we're fighting. And that can be really useful, especially if it's a burn or paralysis. And then Life Dew healing 25% of HP to self and allies is pretty big, and it can be pretty clutch if the NPC decides to use that move. And for that reason, we're going to be putting Gardevoir in B tier. Yes, she has some niche uses, but overall the ability to apply status with Synchronize and the ability to heal with Life Dew make her a lot more viable than Heracross or Umbreon, in my opinion. This one is going to be a little controversial, I'll say, because Staraptor, just like Arcanine and Tauros, has Intimidate, which can be really good unless you get stuck in the thing where for some reason the NPC doesn't see any of the other moves to pick and it just uses Brave Bird. Sure, that Pokemon you're fighting in the raid is gonna be at -4 or -5 attack before it resets its stats, but your timer's also gonna be gone because Staraptor killed itself 4 times in a row using Brave Bird and then got knocked out by getting hit by whatever the Tera raid hit us with. And oh my god, I have lost so many raids to Staraptor, Brave Bird, Oko. I'm a little heated about it. And for that reason, we're going to put it in Debatable. Intimidate, good. Brave Bird, bad. Supposedly, I've never seen it. People on the internet say that it exists, but allegedly, Staraptor has Feather Dance, which can also drop attack of the target, which would make Staraptor more useful, but it only ever uses goddamn Brave Bird. I'm coming off of like a 5-minute tangent about Staraptor killing itself with Brave Bird, so I apologize if I'm a little mean to the next Pokemon, which is, of course, Drifloon. Drifloon, one of my favorite Pokemon. That doesn't matter here. It's a pretty good special attacker, right? Like, it's a pretty good Pokemon, and it looks pretty cool. I have a shiny named Dead Zeppelin, and I think it's a cool Pokemon. But does that mean that you want to see it when you're solo raiding in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Fuck no. All right, that might have been a little rough on Drifloon, but with Aftermath as its ability and Will-O-Wisp really being its only decent move because it'll cut its attack in half, the target's attack in half, I should say, Drifloon isn't really that good, you know? Like, maybe if we're fighting a ghost, but then it's gonna get hit with super effective moves, and it's pretty squishy. It's a balloon. It's gonna pop. Maybe if we're going against grass Pokemon, and it has Air Slash, and, you know, it can get some chip damage in, plus the burn from Will-O-Wisp, it's kind of useful, but that's kind of niche. Niche like Heracross. That's why Drifloon is going to sit right next to Heracross in C tier. Now, first, my voice just cracked so bad. You know what? Fuck it. We'll leave that in. Weavile. Weavile is a little interesting because the utility it brings, I don't know if it's actually that useful, because I'm sorry, but I don't know if Tera raid Pokemon can actually run out of move PP or if they just have infinite. If they don't have infinite, this could be kind of useful in a long-term fight because pressure makes the Pokemon use more PP to use the move. But the timer for Tera raids is also there, so it's not like you can drag out a fight to make the Pokemon run out of PP before you can knock it out or hope that it kills itself with struggle, because the timer will knock you out of the fight before that, so it kind of negates pressure being useful. Aside from pressure, it has Leer to drop defense, and it also has Ice Punch, which has a chance to freeze. It has Night Slash too, so you know if you're going against Ghost Pokemon. But really, if it gets hit by a flamethrower, it's donezo. Bye-bye. Half your timer bar is gone. And yeah, it's not that great. It's not that great. And you know, for that reason, it's another C tier. Next, we have Haxorus, which, I mean, Haxorus, you know, isn't bad. He's got Rivalry, so it's kind of a 50-50 on whether or not he's going to get the boost or he's going to get the diminishing return from the ability. If he gets the boost, it's good. If he gets his ability diminished, it's bad. Again, very situational. But with Scary Face, Facade, and Dragon Claw, I would argue that Haxorus has a little more use or utility than some of the other Pokemon on the list. And that's because some of the Tera raid Pokemon are really fast. Especially, like, you know, like the 7-star ones, they're fast. So having access to Scary Face, which drops your speed by 2 stages, is pretty darn useful. And Haxorus can take a hit or two as long as it's not an Ice Dragon or Fairy Pokemon that you're fighting. So for that reason, I'm going to put Haxorus up on B tier with Gardevoir. And you know, it might be a little controversial, but you know, this is my take. Let me know in the comments if you don't agree with it. Like, let me know. We're halfway through, and I think we have a pretty solid list. We're getting there. And you know, if you've gotten this far in the video, you should definitely consider subscribing and leaving a like. We're getting really, really, really close to 600 subscribers, and even closer to having access to memberships. If we hit our goal for having membership unlocked on the channel by the end of January, we will be doing a mini subathon in February. It'll be either the first or second weekend. I have 4 or 5 days that I can carve out. It'll be a lot of fun, and I really hope we can hit this goal. There might also be some other incentives that I will discuss at a later date. So like I said, be sure to subscribe and turn on that bell so you're notified every time I go live or post a video so you can stay up to date with our growing community. Next, we have Sylveon, who is one of the more useful Pokemon in my opinion. Coming into battle with the ability Pixelate, it really helps because that means that you have a stab priority quick attack that does fairy type damage. On top of that, you have access to Moonblast and Charm. Moonblast is a crazy powerful stab fairy move from Sylveon, and Charm is also really good, a little more situational than Intimidate or Leer, but it will drop attack stats by 2 stages if it is the opposite gender. Just a quick note, I think I might have said that it had to do with gender. I was thinking of Cute Charm, not Charm. Charm will just drop attack by 2 stages. So I'll fix that in editing. Yeah. Sylveon's also it can take a few hits while also dealing out massive amounts of damage, as long as the NPC is using it correctly. And for that reason, it can't really hit S tier because it doesn't have something like Intimidate, which is a guarantee, but it still has a lot of potential and a lot of utility. And for that reason, I'm putting it next to Tauros in A tier. Next, we have Toxapex, which is a Pokemon I don't personally use a lot, but I have seen it perform really well in 5 and 6 star raids. And that is for one point. Its ability, Merciless, allows Toxapex to hit guaranteed crits on poisoned Pokemon. So if you add that to Poison Point, or if you, the player character, poisons the Tera raid Pokemon, it's going to do a lot of damage, especially a critical chilling water will do massive damage and lower the target's attack by 1 stage. So there's a lot of utility. There's some situational or setup needed to have it hitting as hard as it can. But even if Merciless isn't proccing because the Pokemon isn't poisoned, chilling water will drop its attack every time. So it's pretty much like Intimidate or Growl or Charm, but it's doing damage. But it's also costing a move, so it's not as good as Intimidate, but it's definitely better than Charm. So this might be a surprise shock for everyone, but Toxapex is hitting A tier. So we have Mudsdale coming in with Own Tempo, which prevents confusion and also prevents Intimidate. So it can be kind of good because Mudsdale is pretty much just here to hit hard and take a couple hits before it goes down. It doesn't have a whole lot of utility, but being able to avoid an Intimidate in the beginning or being able to avoid self-hurt damage from Confuse, Mudsdale isn't the worst. Definitely not the best. So he's going to earn himself a spot at the bottom of C tier. I don't have a lot to talk about him. He doesn't have a lot of utility. He's really just Horse Go Burr, high horsepower, mash A. That's kind of all I see. You could use Low Kick if the Pokemon weighs more than Mudsdale, but I don't know if the NPCs are going to do that. And honestly, the difference in weight and like the difference, like you're talking like maybe a few HP points between high horsepower and Low Kick. Mudsdale's pretty heavy, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm spitballing right now. But this next bird, I got stuff to talk about with him. So Corviknight is another interesting one. Kind of like Weavile, it comes with pressure. And like I said with Weavile, I'm not sure if pressure affects Tera Raid Pokemon. But unlike Weavile, Corviknight has a few interesting moves. It has Scary Face to get that 2-stage drop in speed. It has Stab Iron Head with a chance to flinch. And it has Stab Drill Peck. So kind of a little bit more well-rounded for attacking. We can go against grass Pokemon. We're immune to poison Pokemon, which can be really annoying in Tera Raid battles. But we also die to a flamethrower, just like Weavile. So because of that, I'm going to say that Corviknight is definitely the top of C tier, edging on the bottom of B tier. We'll see when we get to the end of this list. Maybe Corviknight will jump up a tier. We'll have to see. All right. I didn't want to do it to him this early, but I made the trash tier specifically for this Pokemon because I thought it was a really cool Pokemon the first time I saw it. I was like, it's a goddamn olive tree. It's an olive branch. It's cool. It makes sense. It's a bird. It's an olive. And I kind of want to make a martini. Except this thing makes me need a martini in the Tera Raid battles. Do you understand how just goddamn frustrating this thing is? So in some Tera Raid battles, things that happen in the raid are based off of 3 things: time, health, and time. So when you have an Arbolive come onto the screen and you've got goddamn Grassy Surge and Seed Sower, yeah, it's nice. The little bit of healing is nice, but the amount of time it takes that then lets the raid Pokemon do 17,000 more goddamn moves, and I'm still on the menu in between selecting a move and not selecting a move, and I just got hit 7 times and the entire team wiped, and I have 1 more turn to break through a goddamn shield, all because this Arbolive used all of the time we had to do Seed Sower and heal me by 2 HP. I don't think we need to even talk about where it goes. It goes here. Next, we have my boy Stack. Nah, he's not Stack Attack. He's Garganical. He's my salty boy because I'm salty right now because I'm still thinking about how bad Arbolive is. But Garganical Garganical, we're going to go with Garganical, is a pretty solid mon, and I honestly wouldn't be mad if I saw an NPC using him in a Tera raid. With Purifying Salt preventing status conditions and having damage from ghost-type Pokemon, it's a pretty good ability to have. Yeah, it doesn't give much utility to the rest of the team, but you know he can take some hits and he can definitely deal back some damage before he goes down, if he even goes down, depending on how hard the raid is. With Rock Slide having a chance to flinch, but the added bonus of being able to hit flying Pokemon, you have a really good move there. And especially the flinching. Some people sleep on flinching. Flinching has saved a lot of runs for me. So trust me when I say you should always go for a move that is going to flinch. But if you can't go for a move that flinches, his other move, Rock Tomb, isn't that bad of a choice, because not only are you doing damage, you're also dropping his speed. Well, not guaranteed dropping his speed, but you've got a pretty solid chance that you're going to get at least 1 or 2 speed drops every raid. And then he has Heavy Slam. Again, I'm spitballing here. I'm pretty sure Salty Boy weighs like 500-ish. Say like he weighs like 515 pounds, whatever that is in kilograms. I'll have it here for you non-Americans. Sorry that we have weird weight systems, but America. He's heavy. And you know, like, it does damage, but who's heavier, Salty Boy or a goddamn Dialga? I'm pretty sure Dialga weighs over 1,000 pounds. Again, I'm just spitballing. The actual weights will be up here. Heavy Slam is a pretty good move, but again, it's situational based off of weight. If the Pokemon we're fighting weighs more than Salty Boy, it's useless. And don't even add in the fact that if there's a fighting type Pokemon, if it knows a fighting move, this guy's going down pretty goddamn fast. So because of that, he gets a solid B tier. He can take damage, he can dish it out most of the time, just not when he gets hit by certain things like close combat or Earthquake. Earthquake scares him too. Belly Bolt is one of the Pokemon that I just wish Game Freak would have made one change. Instead of Discharge, they should have given the NPC Belly Bolt Parabolic Charge. Because when you tie Electromorphosis in with any other electrical move, Belly Bolt can hit like an absolute truck. But Discharge has a chance to status. Parabolic Charge restores health. So if we had Electromorphous plus Parabolic Charge on Belly Bolt for the NPCs to use, he would be an S tier. But he's not. So he's going to be a solid A tier, just edging out Toxapex for the top 4. All right, so I mentioned Clodsire earlier when I was talking about Toxapex, because Toxapex Merciless pairs well with Clodsire's Poison Point. It's very niche, but it's there, it's useful, and it's a thing. Clodsire is a thing. He's one of the cutest, derpy little Pokemon. If you ever say anything bad about my son, I will find you and I will make you see the teeth on his back that are absolutely nightmare-inducing. If you've never seen them because you've never used him, go catch yourself a Clodsire and have him use Attack. Those things are big. Now, why they gave Clodsire Poison Point over either of his other abilities is beyond me. Water Absorb would have given him a great amount of bulk, and Unaware would have made him literally the best NPC Pokemon to have when you're solo raiding, because Unaware is kind of a busted ability. Being able to ignore stat changes and just hitting, like, sign me up. Add in that it has Toxic, Poison Jab, and Stomping Tantrum. It can take hits, it can deal damage. It just would have been better if it had Unaware or Water Absorb. I mean, Poison Point's kind of cool, but why do you have Poison Point if you already have Toxic as a move? It kind of seems redundant and pointless. And it's also like the only poison Pokemon on the list of the pool of Pokemon that can be picked for the 5, 6, 7-star raids that can toxic things, but it doesn't have the the angry fire poison Pokemon's ability that lets it poison steel Pokemon. So if you're going against a steel Pokemon, it's absolute dog water. Just like most of the moves, except Stomping Tantrum. Literally, 2 of its 3 moves just won't fucking work. But that's only steel Pokemon. So, I mean, Clodsire is pretty cool. He's pretty good. I'd say, situationally, Poison Ground, you know, ice types are gonna hurt it. If you go against a steel flying Pokemon, you could probably hurt it, but you can't hit it. So literally, if you ever go against a Skarmory, never bring a Clodsire. But other than those situations that I've described, Clodsire is a pretty solid beats here. He could be better. All of them could be better. My boy Luke is out here doing his best with what he's got. Sure, he could have taught his Pokemon a 4th move, and he maybe could have given him a held item. I still haven't fully unpacked my feelings about the Dunsparce. I really wanted a Eastern Dragon style Pokemon to be Dunsparce's evolution, but that's not what we got. We got another segment and a derpy face, and I love him. Speak ill of my son, and him and Clodsire, you're gonna go to the dentist. Clodsire's teeth and the Dunsparce's drill, you're in for a bad time. Don't speak ill on my son. But he's absolute dog water and bad, and he's debatable. I got a little more heated there than I was anticipating on some of these. I'm not gonna lie. Talking about these raids kind of brought back some anger, maybe some unprocessed emotions. But you know, at the end of the day, I feel like it's a pretty good list. Arcanine has always been a really good Pokemon. I mean, all of the Pokemon on this list are usable, good Pokemon. It all comes down to how well the NPC responds with its code. So maybe, you know what, Game Freak, maybe give the Pokemon a 4th move. You know, they've only got 3 for some reason. They're all level 50. I don't know why they only have 3 moves, and some of them don't have held items. Sometimes it seems like they could have spent a little bit more time on it, and it would have been a much better feature. And maybe people, you know, like maybe people without Switch Online or with no friends would have been able to get Mew. They would have been able to do the Mewtwo event. And this is my list. I think it's a pretty good list. I tried to remove as much personal bias as I could, mostly. But I think it's a fair list. So please let me know down in the comments what you think of this list. What would you change? What would you do different? Am I absolutely off my rocker? Like, should Weavile be SS tier because of some weird thing that I'm not thinking of? Or should there be no S tier? Is Arbolive actually good and I'm just doing something wrong about the timers? I don't know. That's kind of why I made this video. I wanted to give my thoughts on it, and I want to hear your thoughts on it too. So if you enjoyed the video and you're heading down to the comment sections to fight with me, be sure to maybe subscribe and leave a like on the video on your way down. It means the world, and I'll see you next time.